Well, today is Friday, March 13th. I'm Brittany Noble, and here's what's coming up today on The Breakdown. The family of a black man fatally shot during a homecoming event at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania is now suing the school. The lawsuit claims the historically black university failed to provide adequate security despite warnings about safety concerns before the event. Family conflicts over parenting, divorce, and finances can quickly turn into emotional and costly court battles for black families. Some experts say mediation may offer a healthier path forward. We speak with family mediator ahead about how families can resolve disputes, protect relationships, and avoid prolonged litigation. The music industry generates billions of dollars every year, but many artists say they're still struggling to see their fair share. Now, one black tech entrepreneur says he's building a system where creators can finally win. We talk with Connect Music CEO George Monger, who just raised $80 million to help artists track royalties, understand their audience, and take control of their earnings. Plus, a new poetry collection is telling a powerful story of struggle, doubt, and spiritual rebirth. Author Kristen Gilbert joins us to discuss Righteous Hurricane, a poetic testimony of God's grace, tracing her childhood journey to finding faith and finding purpose. The Breakdown starts right now. Well, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit has ordered the termination of the Saving on the Valuable Education, also known as the SAVE plan. The Biden administration introduced the SAVE plan as a more affordable option for student loan repayment, providing greater flexibility that allowed some borrowers to make payments as low as $0 per month. According to a recent update from the U.S. Department of Education, beginning July 1st, 2026, federal student loan borrowers will only have two repayment options: a tiered standard repayment plan or a new income-driven program called the Repayment Assistance Plan. The Education Department reports that approximately 7 billion borrowers are currently enrolled in the SAVE plan. During the ongoing legal challenges, these borrowers have been placed in forbearance and are not required to make monthly payments. 17 blue states filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over new race, gender, income, and academic performance-based reporting requirements for universities. The lawsuit challenges the new Admissions and Consumer Transparency Supplement, the ACT survey, which requires universities to provide years of admissions and student data related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, all to ensure schools aren't engaging in affirmative action. The lawsuit says the sheer amount of data sought through the ACT survey would place a considerable burden on colleges. Blue states say the reporting requirements are costly and could be used by the administration for politically motivated investigations. If universities refuse to abide, they will face government penalties. A new gerrymandered congressional map approved by the Missouri General Assembly will remain in effect. A Jackson County judge issued this ruling Thursday. Campaign Legal Center, the American Civil Liberties Union of Missouri, and the Voting Rights Project filed this lawsuit challenging the state's mid-decade redistricting effort. The group claims that the new map violates the Missouri Constitution's requirement of compactness and was drawn under direct pressure from the Trump administration. The map divides the Kansas City area into multiple sprawling districts, which clearly violates the constitutional mandate. If allowed to remain in place, this map would signify a significant setback for fair representation in Missouri. The state's constitution stipulates that redistricting should occur only once every decade following the U.S. decennial census, and that the maps must be drawn compactly. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is postponing a bid for a polling place protection ordinance named in honor of late Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. The Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Fair Access to Democracy Ordinance would create a 100-foot democracy zones around polling places where federal immigration agents could not conduct civil enforcement operations. The measure would have also required landlords to provide secure mailboxes for tenants and add protections against doxing or harassment of election workers. Violations could carry fines ranging from $500 to $5,000. Johnson had scheduled a special city council meeting this week to vote on the resolution, but the mayor's office and the city council members sent a memo postponing the special meeting indefinitely and without explanation. Also, the Trump administration wants the Supreme Court to expedite ending temporary deportation protections for more than 350,000 Haitian immigrants. This request is part of the administration's broader effort to roll back temporary protected status for immigrants from at least a dozen countries. TPS, created by Congress in 1990, gives people from countries facing war, disasters, or dangerous conditions the right to stay and work in the U.S. temporarily. Haitians were first granted TPS after a devastating earthquake back in 2010. A federal judge recently blocked the Trump administration from ending those protections. The Justice Department has since then asked the Supreme Court to intervene, and so far, the Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to roll back protections for Venezuelan migrants, and a request involving Syrian immigrants is currently pending. A judge in Georgia has ruled that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and her office cannot withhold payment for President Donald Trump's legal fees related to the dismissal of the state's election interference case. Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee determined that Willis's office remains disqualified from the case due to a previously identified conflict of interest involving her relationship with the special prosecutor assigned to that matter. The ruling permits Fulton County to intervene as former defendants, including Trump, seek nearly $17 million in legal fees under a new Georgia law that allows defendants to recover their legal costs when the prosecutor is removed from a case. This request arises from the collapse of the extensive 2023 racketeering indictment, which accused Trump and over a dozen associates of engaging in a coordinated effort to overturn the results of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. The family of a black man fatally shot during a homecoming event at Lincoln University of Pennsylvania has filed a lawsuit against the school. The suit alleges that the historically black university failed to maintain adequate security and promptly respond to warnings of potential violence. 20-year-old Juwan Jeffers was shot during homecoming festivities October 25th, 2025 on the university's campus. Authorities say gunfire erupted just before 9:30 p.m., leaving Jeffers dead and 6 other people injured. According to the complaint, the university had knowledge of safety concerns prior to the event, but failed to implement adequate security measures. Officials in Lower Oxford Township had previously warned the HBCU about a crowd control problem and parking issues that prevented EMS vehicles from responding to emergencies. Township officials also offered assistance during a public meeting to help address those concerns, but the university declined the help. The lawsuit claims Jeffers' death could have been prevented with stronger safety planning. The family is seeking punitive damages and says the lawsuit is intended to hold the university accountable and push for improved campus safety. A Southern California federal appeals court ruled that a white first grader has First Amendment protections after she was allegedly punished for giving a Black Lives Matter drawing to a black classmate. That incident happened in March of 2021 at Viho Elementary School. The students' names are being concealed. A white first grader gave a drawing to a black student after a classroom story about Martin Luther King Jr. Well, the lawsuit says the white student felt bad because black people were put in a worse position and made a drawing showing all her friends holding hands with the words, "Black Lives Matter, any life." The black classmate took it home. When the black mother discovered the drawing, she became offended and asked the school to take action. So the next day, the white student was asked to apologize and barred from recess for 2 weeks. 11 months later, the white mother learned of the incident from another parent and filed a complaint and lawsuit alleging First Amendment violations and retaliation. The court ruled in the white student's favor, saying the Constitution protects everyone, no matter their age. Also, a new lawsuit claims that the Memphis Grizzlies have been replacing black security officers with white officers. In the complaint filed in federal court in Tennessee, former security employee Godfrey Howard states that he was fired in 2023 and subsequently overlooked for a promotion that was given to a younger white man. Howard asserts that he had never been disciplined or written up during his time with that organization. And the lawsuit also alleges that this shift began after a new director of team security was hired in late 2023, claiming that black officers have been gradually phased out of their positions since that time. Well, coming up after the break, today on The Breakdown, family conflicts can quickly turn into costly court battles, but is there a better way to resolve them? Family mediator Roland Martin joins us to explain how mediation can help families find solutions and move forward. Remember, for more news headlines and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day, you can visit the Black Star Network. We're your source for stories that matter to our community. We'll be right back. You're watching The Breakdown with Brittany Noble on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Violent white supremacy is, quote, the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland.
The greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violence stream, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology.
They are coming after everything in Black America. MAGA and Donald Trump are specifically targeting Black America. They are going after the money. Attack Black Lives Matter. Attack critical race theory, attack woke, DEI. MAGA wants to defund Black America. This is a perfect example of their desire to completely degrade and de-emphasize Black people.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on The Breakdown. Family conflict is something that many people experience, but when disagreements escalate, whether over parenting, divorce, caregiving, or finances, the emotional and financial toll can quickly become overwhelming. And for many families, the traditional court system can sometimes deepen the conflicts instead of resolving them. And that's why some experts say family mediation can offer a healthier and more productive pathway forward, creating space for communication, accountability, and practical solutions without the stress and cost of prolonged litigation. Joining us now to talk about how mediation can help our families navigate conflict and build healthier relationships is family mediator and conflict resolution specialist, Roland Martin.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Roland. Thank you for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us, for viewers who may not be familiar with this process, what exactly is family mediation? How does it work?
So family mediation is a place where you can allow parents to come together without going to court. So there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of myths when it comes to mediation. A lot of people tie mediation going to court. But this is a process to where both parents are put in a situation where they are in control of the outcome. Whereas if you go before a judge, obviously that falls, that'll happen with the judge. If we to go forward with him, he'll decide the outcome for you. So you don't even have to do that. With mediation, it allows parents to come together, talk about, issues that they've had or concerns, moving forward, a path forward with a structured plan, which allows, the parents to actually reach an agreement without any type of stress, or they can actually be able to be open about anything they would like to share, opposed to, because again, it's a private setting, it's a private, confidential place where it makes you feel better and more happy to be able to share that information, opposed to going before court, maybe having to get an attorney to litigate, which that could be even more cost for you. But family mediation, that gives you the control of the outcome, allows you to save time, money, along with being in control of all the issues that y'all may have. Y'all can actually have a private setting to where y'all can talk those things through, both parents.
Renard, what kinds of family issues are most commonly resolved through mediation?
Most common issues are, you have, the court looks at it as, you got custody, visitation, child support. Those are the three key areas that a lot of parents come to mediation for. Also include divorce as well. So when you have, conflicts within divorce, you're trying to, instead of going to court, you can actually come to mediation for divorce as well. And the way we look at mediation is that instead of going to we don't call it the typical legal terms, custody, visitation, or child support. We look at mediation as different terms we use, which is, for custody, we call it decision-making, because essentially that's what it means. It's the decision-making responsibilities of the child. Now, when we look at visitation, we call that co-parenting, because essentially it's a co-parenting schedule that both parents agree on, and that's the terminology that we use. And when it comes to child support, it's called financial support of a child, which means, again, same thing as a legal term, but we don't use those terms in mediation. And essentially that all is pertaining to a co-parenting plan. So custody, visitation, child support, we call it a co-parenting plan, with two parents working together to come up with a plan for their child or children. And now, as far as the divorce, we allow spouses, ex-spouses to come into this divorce in mediation, where they can, unfold and address those concerns that they have with each other. And we can do that through mediation, and, essentially be able to come up with an agreement without even having to step in the courtroom.
Emotions can get high, especially in situations involving divorce, parenting disagreements. How can mediators keep the conversations productive?
So what I like to do is, to keep it productive, is, again, as a mediator, I'm a neutral person, which means that I don't take sides. I don't hold any judgment. I'm here to essentially help the parents be able to reach an agreement. And when things get a little intense, and there are times where, emotions get flared, and this is a very emotional process. So it might be a time where a parent or parents can't get along in a mediation session, where we're in person or on a Zoom call or virtually. So what I like to do is, express to parents that we can also meet separately, which means that if we're on a virtual meeting, we can assign parents to a break room, and I would shuffle back and forth and speak with each parent to ensure, they may have questions and concerns. I kind of can talk to them directly without having the other parent there, since we had difficulty making it productive or moving forward on some items. So those, there are instances where we are able to separate the parents in different rooms to reach an agreement. And that happens sometimes depending on the emotions, and if we're not making any progress in a mediation session. So there are ways where you don't actually have to be in person to reach an agreement. You can be, in separate rooms, and the mediator could shuffle back and forth to reach an agreement between parents that have a high conflict or can't get along in the same room, or not able to reach an agreement due to the intense emotions that they have between each other.
Are there any situations like abuse where mediation is not a viable option and court is actually the best situation?
Yes. So when it comes anything pertaining to, because again, the mediation is about the best interest of the child, more importantly. And as a mediator, if it's anything in regards to abuse, neglect, or anything detrimental to a child, mediation would not be a path forward as far as trying to get a resolution. Because again, this mediation is more importantly about the best interest of the child. And when we have situations that have abuse and neglect or anything that's detrimental to the child, that would have to go forward to court and let a judge decide on that. Because again, it's, as a mediator, we're considered mandated reporters, which means anything that we hear about abuse and neglect or something detrimental to a child, we have to report that to Child Protective Services. So those type of cases can't come to mediation. Those will have to go forward to court.
Understood. All right, Renard, how can we get in contact with you for families that are experiencing issues and need a mediator? How can they connect?
They can connect to me. I actually have, I have my website, www.crawleymediationservices.org. You can reach me there. Also on my YouTube, which is YouTube.com/Crawley Mediation Services. And also you can reach me at my direct line, 804-241-7149. That's my business phone. Feel free to reach out if anybody even needs assistance. I'm really more than happy to help out.
Renard Crawley, thank you so much for your time and your information. And thank you for joining us today on The Breakdown.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a nice day.
You too. After the break, we'll show you what happened on Roland Martin Unfiltered last night. Roland broke down the proposal, a SAVE plan proposal with Congressman Al Green, and why some say it could have some serious consequences for the Black community. That story is coming up. Plus, have you come across a news story that deserves national attention? We absolutely want to hear from you. So please, there's a QR code right there. Submit your questions and comments, and let's connect. I'll see you after the break.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
I'm Risa Colbert, and you're watching the Black Star Network.
In today's Black and Missing, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police are asking for your help finding Travion Pirtle. The 18-year-old has been missing for a few days now. He went missing March 7th. He was last seen near 38th Street and German Church Road on the city's east side. He may be in need of medical attention, and the circumstances of his disappearance are still unknown. He was last seen wearing Adidas pants with white stripes and a black hoodie with red lettering. He has a dermal piercing under his eye and tattoos. Please call the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department at 317-327-6160 if you know anything. Well, in case you missed it on Roland Martin Unfiltered, Roland talks about Republicans pushing the SAVE Act with Democratic Congressman Al Green and the horrible forecast it will present for Black Americans.
All the Save America Act, Republicans are saying, how dare Democrats oppose this? What's wrong with voter ID? Democrats and Republicans all say it's all good. But the reality is the Save America Act is not just about voter ID. I told y'all before, I have a Texas driver's license. What Republicans are saying is my Texas driver's license not good enough. I got to get another ID. Okay, now it's a passport. Now they're putting, oh no, you got to prove you're a citizen. Wait a minute. Why do I have to prove I'm a citizen? You already have laws on the books that keep folks who are not citizens from voting. It's a sham. And they are trying to play the okie doke. Congressman Al Green of Texas joins us right now. I'm glad to have you here, Congressman. And now we got a battle going on in the Senate. Donald Trump, they're trying to force senators to end the filibuster or make it a talking filibuster. You got longtime Texas Senator John Cornyn, who was against that. Now all of a sudden, because he's trying to kiss Trump's ass to get an endorsement again his runoff against Ken Paxton, now he says, oh, now he's for it. The reality is that the Save America Act is trash and has no business being made law.
I concur with you, and I do concur with you about people taking positions for political expediency. This act would not allow me to vote with this piece of identification. This is the piece of identification that I use to vote for issues of war and peace, $1 trillion budgets in Congress, but I can't use this identification to vote. I tested the system myself. I went in without a driver's license and I said, I want to vote. And they required me to get a birth certificate. I sent off for my birth certificate. I have sent money and I have not received it. And that has been years ago when I tested the system. The point is, it is not as easy as some people might think for people to get a birth certificate. There can be all kinds of complications associated with it once you get into the process of trying to acquire it. And if you do acquire it, your birth certificate may not align with what you have been identifying yourself with over the years. Women, when they marry, they sometimes will drop their name that they have, their given name, and they'll then accept another name, their husband's name, for example. And when they do that, their name, the last name won't align with what they have on the birth certificate. So as a result, we find people are going to be having these problems registering to vote. And then if you register and the registration is done inappropriately, the person who registers you can be sued. So there is a private right to sue people who perform the registration and they don't do it properly. It imposes a lot of burdens on people that are unnecessary, especially given that we don't have a large number of people who are alleged to have voted improperly in this country. We are fighting a fight that doesn't exist, but we're creating a fight such that people will have to fight their way into the polls to vote.
Yeah, it's a solution looking for a problem. That's what it is. And they don't want to be real about this. And again, what they're trying to do is they're trying to gaslight folks by saying, well, how dare Democrats be against this? I mean, look at the number of Democrats who agree with voter ID. The issue is not voter ID. Here's a perfect example. You take, look, you're there in Texas. I'm born and raised in Texas. I still vote there. In Texas, when they passed the law in Austin, they would not, if you were a student at a state university, that is a state university, you could not use your student ID to vote, but if you had a gun permit, you can use that. Well, wait a minute. A state ID is a state ID. That's a perfect example of them saying, no, we want ID, but we don't want all forms of ID. So we're not going to allow that ID because they don't want those students at state universities to be voting because they believe, oh, they may be voting more Democrat than Republican. That's a perfect example of how Republicans don't like all forms of ID. No, they want to specify exactly which form of ID.
Yeah, and the perfect example with the continuation of it is Prairie View A&M University. The students at Prairie View A&M University have had problems trying to not only register to vote, but actually voting. They actually at one time divided the campus such that some people could vote on campus and others would have to vote elsewhere. They have, over the years, found clever ways to prevent people of color from voting. And it applies to us more so than others because of the history in this country of our being birthed. Many people were born, if you're as my age, midwifery was a means by which you acquired your first breath of air. And as a result, the records are not as exact as one might think until you start to explore this possibility of getting a birth certificate. Many of the people that I represent, they're not going to travel out of the country. They have no passport, so they've not bothered to try to acquire a passport. So that's out of the question. So they're only left with this birth certificate option. And sometimes it really does cost more than some people can afford. It cost me about $60 to make this application. Now, that's not a lot for me, I confess, but there are some people who are making minimum wage, living from paycheck to paycheck. They've got to now spend some of their additional money on this ID, and that can be a burden for them. So what I believe is this: we have to fight this. And one of the ways to fight it is to vote against it. I'm going to vote against it. It does not matter what they say. This is a voter suppression. It is a latest form of some sort of nouveau poll tax when you have to now buy another ID so that you can vote. I'm antithetical to it. I'm going to vote against it. And I encourage others to stand up to this as well. Do not be bullied into believing we are doing something inappropriate because we refuse to allow people to suppress the vote, not only in Black communities, but I mentioned Black communities because of our history in the country, but poor white people are going to have similar problems. And we have to protect their rights when we protect our rights.
Well, these poor white folks had better recognize that just because Trump is saying it don't mean it's good, and they better speak up or they're going to look up at the last second. Look, we know the last election how they moved voting locations and they screwed over Native Americans in South Dakota, where they moved the polling site, and that impacted their vote turnout. Norm Ornstein, I'm looking for the tweet right now, and I saw this tweet yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. Now, first of all, let me be perfectly clear. I don't believe we have to have new forms of IDs, but one of the things that he said is, man, I'm trying to find the tweet. I'm going to paraphrase. He said, what Democrats should do is Democrats should put forth a bill calling for voter ID, but what they should do is they should say that the federal government is going to mail for free an ID to every American who cannot afford a new one. He said, and then let's see if Republicans stand up for that. I'm going to find the actual tweet so I can read the actual thing. But that was the thing that I've always said. Okay, since y'all want a government ID, fine. I can't think of, listen, if Pete Hegseth can buy lobster and stuff like that at the Pentagon, if Donald Trump can sit here and waste taxpayer money, him flying back and forth playing golf. Okay, let's do this here. The federal government says we're going to establish a federal government ID, and we're going to offer that for free to every American citizen. I guarantee you the Republicans will absolutely say no to that. And I'm saying, hey, what more American is that to say, here's a free government-approved ID for every American citizen?
I absolutely would agree with that, because it lifts the burden of having to get your ID from another state, which was the case with me. I live in Texas. I was born in Louisiana in Charity Hospital. The hospital is no longer there. And it would take the burden off of the person to have to now search out other states for an ID. And sometimes that can be very complicated. It's not as simple as one might think. I agree with you. Let's have the state bear the burden of giving everybody the ID. I don't think that people in general oppose the ID. It's the process that creates the problem. And not only the process, but now this added notion that a person can be sued for simply registering a person improperly. That's going to create a lot of consternation in the minds of people who have this function of registering people to vote. They will probably deny a person rather than risk being brought to court and charged with some sort of civil offense. So I would hope that people would understand that we have to stand against it. I don't want people to be bullied into doing anything, especially when it comes to this right to vote. As you know, we're losing a lot of our other rights under the Voting Rights Act. We've lost this opportunity to pre-clear, and as a result, we're now finding that we're having laws like moving the various voting registration places or voting places around without any pre-clearance. All of these things are being done to suppress the vote and to maintain power in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. They've gone so far as to redistrict various portions of states such that lines are drawn to eliminate congressional districts. Again, just to maintain the power in the Senate. And it would seem that this would be so onerous that people could see through it and immediately decide that this is not something that they can support. It's all about maintaining power, and it's all about racism in the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Congressman Al Green, we appreciate it, sir. Thank you so very much, my alpha brother.
Well, thank you very much. And Clyburn is one of the most knowledgeable persons in Congress. If you lose Clyburn, you're going to lose a lot of knowledge in the Congress.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring my panel now on Dr. Nola Haynes, Georgetown University School of Foreign Service out of D.C., Win Cooney, co-founder of Politicking out of D.C., Reese Colbert, host of the Reese Colbert Show out of D.C., will be joining us in a few. Win Cooney, I'm going to start with you. This is the tweet that Norman Ornstein put out. He said, Senate Dems need to introduce an actual voter ID bill, include state-issued student IDs as acceptable, and offer free passport cards for those now lacking an official photo ID. Contrast it with the Save America Act, which uses voter ID as a smokescreen for voter suppression. He's right. And see, now all of a sudden, now Republicans, okay, wait, what's the problem?
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. And this is just another attempt by the Republicans at voter suppression. If you really want true equity and equality in this country, particularly when it comes to voting, that's exactly what you would do. You would not only implement a system that works, which, again, the system that we have currently already has proven that it works. There is not a bunch of people that don't have government IDs going to vote. That's number one. Number two, once you make the burden upon the state, they see how much of a financial waste of time, money, and energy it actually is. But what they want is they want to target vulnerable populations, people that generally don't have, real IDs or don't have passports or may have misplaced their birth certificates. So vulnerable populations that may not have access to these things, and target those people and keep them out of voting precincts. This is simply unethical and it's unconstitutional.
Well, and the other thing that people have to know, Nola, in understanding this, and this is right here. This is from the Bipartisan Policy Center. This is bipartisanpolicy.org. 5 things to know about the Save America Act. And this, it says right here, in terms that they lay out really what's going on here. But here's what people don't know about this deal. They already say right here, citizenship is already a requirement. Instances of non-citizen voting, extremely rare. Now, when you start going on, many eligible citizens don't have documentary proof of citizenship because you don't have to. You don't have to have if you don't have a passport, other than that, you don't need to prove you're a citizen. You're a citizen, okay? Then all of a sudden, there are multiple ways to verify citizenship that puts responsibility on government, not voters. But here's the other thing, and this is the Jedi mind trick, Nola. Republicans, well, what's the problem? It's voter ID. Democrats support voter ID. Republicans support voter ID. Why are you afraid of ID? You need an ID to get into a building. No, the Save America Act also bans mail-in voting, except in extreme cases.
It's what they always do, Roland. You know, it's a messaging trick. It is this idea of saying something, you know, to normalize it. You sound like the sane person in the room. You know, you present an argument that seems absolutely sane and you're speaking calmly and you're speaking in a specific tone. These are all messaging tricks. And we all know that the GOP Republicans, they do it well. They have it on lock. But I am very happy that this conversation is happening, that the realities of the SAVE Act is being talked about. And to your point, I've never in my entire life, you know, and as an American citizen, had to prove the fact that I'm an actual citizen. So that's weird and it feels uncomfortable and it feels like a direction we shouldn't be going in. But the last thing I'll say about this is the same thing with the gerrymandering, right? The same excuses that they use to manipulate the courts to get the result that they want. This is yet another tactic. But at the end of the day, we can inform, we can educate, which is one part of this, so people can know what to do when they get to the polls. But the other side of this is a larger conversation that we need to have about the way in which some of these loopholes are exploited, because it is clear as day with the redistricting situation in Texas that suppressed voters. What happened in that Texas race was just clear as day to many people. And we are in midterm season. And I'm very worried that things like this are going to continue to happen. And what will the fix be outside of educating people on what to do at the polls? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, coming up tonight on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we have an exclusive interview with the attorney representing the Black woman who was forcibly removed from her car by a Texas police officer, and the co-founder of the National Target Boycott, who insists that the boycott is still ongoing. Join us for all of this and more tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern, only on the Black Star Network on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Well, coming up after the break today on The Breakdown, the music industry generates billions of dollars, but many artists say they still aren't getting paid fairly. We talk with the Connect Music CEO, George Monger, who just raised $80 million to help artists track their royalties and take control of their earnings. Stay with us. You won't want to miss this conversation. Plus, if you like the work that we do, your support is critical to what we do. You can support us via Cash App using the Stripe code. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen right there. You can help us out with credit cards, PayPal. You can use Venmo, Zelle. If you're old school, you can send a check or a money order. There's the information there on the screen. Our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, and so we really need your support to make that happen. Stay with us. We have another interview on the other side of the break on The Breakdown.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Okay, welcome back to the breakdown. This is the Noble Spotlight, and today, the music industry. Well, it generates billions of dollars every year, but many artists say they are still struggling to see their fair share of the money. So our next guest is trying to change that. George Monger is the president and CEO of Connect Music, an AI-powered royalty intelligence platform, all designed to give artists transparency, ownership, and real-time insight into their earnings and audience data. Through a tool called Connect Deck, artists can track their royalties as they happen and better understand who is actually listening to their music. Monger recently raised $80 million to grow Connect Music and expand its mission of helping artists finally win financially in the music business. And today, he joins us, George Monger, president and CEO of Connect Music. George, welcome to the breakdown.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us, why do creators actually struggle to benefit financially from their own work?
Well, the music industry, perhaps by design, is a complex space. And what we saw with the rapid growth of the music streaming business is an industry that's about $15 billion. And about $5 billion of that usually comes from hip hop and R&B, from Black music. And so what I wanted to do was simplify that stream and identify opportunities for artists to grow. So particularly for writers and producers, there's almost $1 billion every year of black box monies that should be collected and paid to those writers and producers. And so we wanted to build the operating system or the platform that would allow rights holders to focus on the creativity while still having access to the tools that major labels may have, and have the financing that you would typically have to give up your copyright ownership and get stuck in that vicious cycle of the major companies make you famous while they make themselves rich.
Why has that level of transparency been missing in the music industry for this long?
Well, I think that so long we've had an industry that is in a space of we win, you lose. And what we want to do is create a win-win where we have artist partners who maintain ownership of their copyright while at the same time have access to capital, have the insights and analytics and data modeling to predict and show where their customer is, and still create an opportunity for them to have the financial reward. So when they decide that they want to sell their catalog or hold it for long-term, the intellectual property long-term for their family, that they have the right to do that, so that they're not, recouping. And in the music industry, this is the term where you take $1 million advance, you have to pay back $8 million in sales in order for you to recoup. And sort of at the end of that loan, you don't own those copyright. The company that gave you that money does.
Tell us how your company is able to help artists use that data to make smarter decisions about their careers.
Sure. So with the artist, they're able to log in. We get our data directly from our streaming partners. So when you can recognize that your audience is in Texas, you probably shouldn't be spending marketing money in California if you have virality or opportunity in a specific market. As you grow around that market, you start to identify lookalike audience. Again, an 18 to 24-year-old is your customer. You probably shouldn't be marketing to a 50-plus-year-old demographic if you're not seeing growth there. One example, one of our artists, Don Tripp, he started to work with us in 2023. He had just under 100 million streams. And because we hyper-focused in on his audience, which was an older demographic based on how his music performed, he's now at more than 1 billion streams in millions of dollars as a result of working inside of our playbook.
Oh, that's incredible. And as I understand, you recently raised $80 million for Connect Music.
That's right.
Tell us more about that investment.
Yep, we raised that equity. We raised that investment primarily for us to fuel the growth of the business, but that allows us to invest in more artists and artist catalogs to help them grow. And in some cases, those who are looking to sell, we can acquire those. But for most of those, they're looking for a partner, not for an owner.
You know, before we wrap this up, your story is very unique. Just tell us how you were able to get to this point in your life, because you haven't always been this put together, if you will.
So my background, I started with a classical opera singer and didn't enjoy personal services. I spent quite a bit of time locally here in Memphis in politics in Shelby County Election Commission to hopefully right some of the wrongs we were seeing. And then I really got passionate about how we could help writers, producers, and artists. And so helped launch a music nonprofit and ultimately led the Memphis Symphony Orchestra as chief operating officer through its financial challenges before getting back into the for-profit space and really finding a sweet spot here in launching Connect Music in 2020.
All right. Well, George Monger, president and CEO of Connect Music, thank you so much for joining us today on The Breakdown and sharing how you are working to reshape the future of the music industry. Incredible.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Coming up after the break, another powerful story. This one of faith, struggle, and spiritual rebirth told through poetry. Stay with us. You're watching The Breakdown.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Righteous Hurricane, a poetic testimony of God's grace by Kristen Gilbert, is a raw and redemptive collection of poetry that spans from the age of 15 to adulthood. The book is divided into 3 parts, each reflecting a different phase of the author's journey: the shadows of adolescence, confronting doubt and inner darkness, and spiritual rebirth. She joins us now on The Breakdown to talk all about her new book. Kristen, welcome to The Breakdown.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you were able to write this book.
Well, the way that I kind of started on my journey is I started writing poetry at the age of 15. And so the book actually has poems from when I was 15 to about 35. And I struggled a lot as a teen with like depression and anxiety, just from different things that happened in my life, in my personal life. And as I grew older into my 20s, it just seemed like it wasn't really going away. I've always been a Christian. I've always been a believer of Christ. But as life went on, it just seemed like things got darker and harder for me. And I reached out to the Lord and just was like, what am I missing here? Like, what is the problem? And my mom actually really helped me. And she was just like, you need to dig deep into the Bible. You need to dig deep into the word. And I just started reaching and digging, and the Lord answered. And so Righteous Hurricane is really just about poems that I've written from the time of where I was in pain until the Lord just really saved me, really, and got me through it. And the purpose of me writing it was just to bring people hope. Like, if you're in pain, the Lord is there to save you, and he's there to get you through it.
In the second part of your book, you talk about inner darkness and your struggle to trust God, who may feel distant at times. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, in my 20s, I struggled with depression and anxiety, and I really sunk to a really low place. And my poems really reflect that. So in the beginning stages, in the second part of my book, like kind of the beginning poems, you really see that pain, and you really can feel how dark moments can get. And when I was moving through that kind of stage of getting to know the Lord a little bit more, I realized that as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, you do not have to live in depression. You do not have to exist in an anxious state all the time. I just didn't understand that because I didn't have an intimacy with Christ. And so, in the book, I kind of go into what those emotions look like through that transformation. It was a lot of feeling lost, feeling dark, and then all of a sudden getting a little bit of hope, starting to feel closer to the Lord and feel like, okay, I'm not in this alone. I'm not by myself. And so towards the end of the second half of the book, it's like my eyes were open. It was like it just clicked. And I remember the moment perfectly in 2019, right before COVID. I was just praying to the Lord, and it just hit me. And I was just like, oh, wow, wait, Lord, you died on the cross for me personally. You have to take it so personal, because yes, he died for the world, but he died personally for me. And it was like my eyes completely open, and I was like, okay, Lord, this is where you want me to be. You want me to recognize who you are and get close to you. So towards the end of the second half, I'm really exploring more of what that joy looks like in the Lord. What does it mean to be encouraged and inspired by the Lord? How can I walk in truth and in faith instead of walking in darkness and depression?
And the final part of your book, A New Creation. Tell us about this part.
Yes. So this is right after that moment in 2019. I just devoted my life to Christ. And I said, okay, I want to follow after you, Lord. Show me how. And I just kind of realized the joy of the Lord in every single moment. Not saying it was easy, because we live in a broken world. We're constantly around a lot of pain and darkness. But he held my hand throughout the whole time. So the last part is really just filled with light and joy. And it's in my life personally, what I've experienced from the Lord, which has just been, I feel a lot more uplifted. Depression doesn't haunt me anymore. And it's really meant, in the last stage of the book, it's really meant to show people that if you give your life over to darkness, you will live a life of darkness. But if you give your life over to Christ, you will live a light and joyful filled life, no matter what comes your way. And so I have poems in there that demonstrate that. They they show how you're going to have moments where it seems like you have no help, and it's going to be dark, and it's going to be depressing. But that does not mean that you don't have hope. It does not mean that it's the end. And so through that last part, I really just tried to give encouragement. And these are real moments from my life that I drew inspiration from to write these poems and encourage people to know that you have hope in Jesus, and to just keep on moving no matter what.
Kristen, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing with us your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Your book is called Righteous Hurricane, a poetic testimony of God's grace. We can get that on Amazon, right?
Yes, it is available on Amazon. And it's available. I have some links on my Instagram and Facebook as well. You can find me at Kristen_author on Instagram, and then Kristen Gilbert on Facebook. You can find me there.
Perfect. Kristen, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That will do it for us today on The Breakdown here on the Black Star Network. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. Be sure to keep the conversation going online. You can find me at The Noble Journalist and connect with me, and I'll see you again on Monday, noon Eastern, here on the Black Star Network. Have a great day.